gentlemen, what the world's been waiting for, what the world needs now, the one, the only, amazing, original Johnny Blaze. Often imitated, but never duplicated. Here's Johnny.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all to the amazing original Johnny Blaze Show. It's always great to be here as I blaze right in with my karate kick. Let's have a blazing hot fun time. My ex-girlfriend had a lot in common with my cell phone plan. $10 a minute anytime, anywhere. No restrictions, plus plenty of rollover minutes. A husband and wife were having financial difficulties, and the wife decided to walk the streets to pick up some extra cash. After 6 hours, she came back and handed her husband a pile of cash. "Look, I made $1,000.50. The husband asked, "What shirt gave you 50 cents? And the wife answered, "All of them." I have a checking account at the worst bank in town. Whenever I ask for a change for $1, they charge me a 75-cent fee. What do you call the man who invests all your money? A broker. We have a blazing hot fun show with a special guest. He is a celebrity publicist, TV and film producer, and award-winning actor and author. Please give a big warm welcome and say hello to Rikki Lee Travolta. Hello, Rikki Lee Travolta.
There we go. There we go. There we go.
Okay, hey, Rikki Lee Travolta, you made it.
My man, Johnny Blaze, my man.
I'm glad you made it, Rikki Lee Travolta. I want to welcome you very much to the amazing original Johnny Blaze Show. It's a pleasure to see you here.
Man, Johnny. I got to tell you, you've been like the picture of patience, and I have been the spokesperson for so many technology companies. I was the spokesperson for a tier 1 ISP, Lola Wireless, internet company, right? And I was the executive spokesperson, part owner of Other World Computing, minimum $583 million brand. And I can't work this technology crap for anything, man. And that's why I'm the perfect spokesperson, because I have to have it explained to me so I understand it intimately so I can explain it to anybody. And what our audience here doesn't know is that I really don't like to swear, because I love being around kids and I love being around families, and I'm habitual. So if I start swearing, I'm going to swear all the time. So I don't swear at all. And I was just loading up Johnny's ears with just bad words, because Johnny, I'm going to tell you something here. I'm going to tell you something. I have the worst internet company in history, and it's a company called Astria. I mean, I'm in hiding in Michigan because bad things were done to me at an Airbnb. The things you read about in the paper, it really does happen, and it happens to celebrities. And so our company, Entertainability Group, Hollywood Celebrity Endorsement Partners, Life and Times, man, I produce film, I produce television, I produce music, and we're at this Airbnb in Fox Lake, Illinois, and the dude didn't want to repair the lock. Oh boy, says we're going to cover anything that's stolen. Man, not a good idea. And I put this little plastic child gate in there, thinking, man, I hope he fixes it. He wouldn't fix it. And things are stolen, right? So we go to the police, Officer Blue, and we do it in the lobby of one of my clients, Patrick McSherriott, at California Cookies. I'm going to tell you something, Johnny Blaze, Johnny. I mean, talk about a killer company, California Cookies. And it's I don't want to say the product on your show without your permission or anything, but they do cool stuff, and it's really cool people, right? And so Patrick was like, man, you got to do this police report in my lobby. We videoed it and everything. And it shouldn't have been a big deal. And I went and met with Nathan, because the Officer Blue said, yeah, go get security footage from Nathan and, talk to him about how much it was and everything. And man, I produce television, I produce film, I produce music. And some of the artists that I've worked with are like Grammy Hall of Fame. And the things that were stolen were about $50 million worth of creative product, films that were going to be released, albums. And all Nathan had to do, I mean, he was like ready to cry. And he says, oh, disabled. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, but disabled doesn't mean dumb. It just means I can't work electronics really good. But I can make $100 million marketing and just put in the insurance claim. That's all you had to do. And then what I alluded to, the worst thing that could happen to a man or woman happened because he held us captive there for like 3 months and used our credit card things. And so the Schaumburg, Illinois police, this happened in Fox Lake. Schaumburg, Illinois police finally rescue us. And I'm hiding in Michigan because they said it's not safe for you there. And so in this little town in Michigan, the only internet is a company called Astria. And they went in, I had to have it installed, and they showed up and they didn't install it. They dropped off a box and I'm supposed to just hook it up. And so I'm hooking it to every cable in this place. And I'm spending days on the phone with their tech people. Finally turns out they don't have it hooked up to the house. It doesn't matter what I hook it up to. And so they have to come back in like 2 weeks. And man, you know what I do? That's costing me lots of money. And talked to some lady and she's like, yeah, we gonna credit you. And cause losing a lot of money. And they come out in 2 weeks because that's how it happens in small towns. And they hook it up and the guy was really cool and everything. And then the first bill comes. And not only is there not the credit for like thousands of dollars, they're billing me from the time that it wasn't installed. And since then, 50 hours of my billable time. They know it's my billable time. 50 hours trying to get them on the phone because everybody left the company. They got bought. And so whoever made the deal like left and didn't read the notes, and they don't have voicemail, and they don't return emails. And so then we get, I'm talking to every installer in the area. I need to get a hold of the only people who would answer the phone was the tech department. And man, I've been the tech spokesperson. Steve Jobs called me a marketing genius because in Macworld, the big Apple convention, only one time in history did a company other than Apple win Best of Show. One time in history. I couldn't invent nothing, but I'm the marketing genius, man. It was the Axitron mod book, the iPad before the iPad. I did that. And so Steve was like really gracious, man. He was talking about the iPhone that year. And I got all the headlines. And so he was real gracious. He called me a marketing genius, and that was cool. But my billable rate is really, really high. And they're saying that they're going to pay that, but then nobody's returning calls. So 50 hours of my time. And then I have to hire somebody, Sky. It's 30 hours of her time. Nobody's doing anything. Tech department, though, at least is documenting everything. Because I'm not stupid. I'm not just going to let it go. And all the tech guys, they're all saying what an awful brand this thing is, Astria. And I get a hold of the president. But guess what? He's moved on to another company because he said it's an awful company. And all this is recorded because I'm disabled. So in accommodation of my disability, I'm allowed to record things per the ADA, and I'm informing them about this. And so they're committing like brand suicide. They're abusing a disabled guy. And I'm not trying to have that happen. So I get a hold of Cameron Blanchard, who's the head of communications of the owner, which is now Charter Communications, the one who bought them. And she denies that they own the company. And so I play the recordings, send her the recordings and stuff and said, well, here's the executive saying it is, and here's your installers. And then they admit, okay, we do own it. We're going to escalate this because I'm disabled and this affects my disabled son if the internet goes off. And I want to pay it, but they owe me all this money. And gosh, it was like 2-3 months of trying to get a hold of anybody. And nobody ever returned a call to this day. And they're sending, we're going to turn off the internet emails with a no reply email address. And the only contact we ever got after Cameron Blanchard assured she was going to take care of it was some random customer service email. They wouldn't give us a name. They said they're short staffed and never did anything. And then they turned off the email. And it was really, really bad because it affected disability. It affected trauma. It was probably the most horrific thing. Joanne Deal, who's our chief compassion officer, was on the phone with me when it happened. And it was just horrific because it relates to my disability and some things that had happened. That thing at Fox Lake, the worst thing that could happen to a man or woman. And none of it had to happen. They were begged for months. They were begged even for can you just give us a confirmation you won't turn it off? We're trying to work with you. You just won't talk with us. They turned it off. And it was horrific. And I've watched the video. And you have to call it brand suicide. Because there's things in history, Enron, Volkswagen, that this kind of thing comes out, that they purposely did it. And it's horrific. And it's on video, and we're launching a show. And they knew that. And so Mark, one of the tech guys, gets it turned back on. Oh, okay. Then they turn it off again in the morning. More trauma. I end up at the hospital, and it's on video. And we're like begging them. And one of my Publicist dudes, Jesse, he's trying to be really polite because nobody at Charter will return a call. And all they have is an email. Their phone number goes back to Astria, the company that they say they don't own. And so all we can do is email them. And now I'm in trauma. I'm going to the hospital. So Jesse from another part of the country, he's just like Googling it. It's midnight. He's Googling any number to help them. Because this is going to be a media nightmare, right? Celebrity publicist, super nice guy, has been begging for months. They've cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And all that had to happen is a phone conversation. And then they had this happen. And so Jesse calls whatever people he can get a hold of, because Charter Communications is a $65 billion brand. And they've now committed civil rights violations because it affects disability and my finances and my pain and suffering. And Jesse, we're still focused on positive because Charter Communications is $65 billion brand. And then they just did a merger with Cox Communications, which is, I think it's like a $25 billion brand, something like that. And then their distributor is Warner Media, which has things like Discovery and all this. And so that's like, I don't know, like a $20 billion brand. And we don't want bad things. We want everybody happy. Just get on the phone with Jesse. Man, maybe we put some of our shows on Discovery, right? Everybody's happy. Everybody makes profits. Instead, brother, said, well, I'm at the hospital on video. I'm there at the hospital. They deliver to the wrong address. It took like a couple of days for somebody to get it to us. A letter from William Wesselman, who is the vice president of law at Charter Communications. And he says in this letter here that they were harassed by calls to have the internet on when all we did, first of all, we never called because we didn't have a number. And it was 3 months of begging them, let us pay. And so they're permanently turning off the internet. And I guess they did that right before our interview because everything was working. And now it's on the internet, it doesn't work. But that's, again, civil rights violations because they're aware. I mean, witnesses saw this. I had to go to the medical. And it's civil rights violations because it's the trauma that they knew there was going to happen related to a disability. Because my daddy did bad things when I was a kid. You know, I survived it, okay? But it creates really bad trauma if certain things happen. And they knew it was going to happen. And they're recorded. All these people saying how awful Astria is, how awful Charter Communications is. And then they go ahead and they commit just brand suicide. Because all Jesse tried to do, all he did is leave messages, hey, there's a media problem. We want to help you solve it. And they never returned his calls. And they never returned the emails. Wow. And oh man. And I create celebrity brands, right? I create number one brands. I like to be a positive person. And I'll show you a few things, man. You know, sorry, we got like no background here.
Excuse me. What I want to ask you, and this is very intriguing, what's going on. It's terrible what happened to you. What is the end result of all this? Did you get it resolved? This
Oh
part.
no, this dude, this just happened. You and I were about to start the interview, and then internet went out because this jerk off.
Oh,
I don't want to insult him, but this
right.
guy who doesn't know the law, even though he's the vice president of law, committed civil rights violations, and I'm probably going to be in trauma all night, like screaming and yelling uncontrollably. I have Tourette's, and he did this on purpose, and it's a violation of civil rights law,
Mhm.
and so that's where it's brand suicide, where instead of just getting on the phone,
Right. So
then
what are you going to do about what's going to happen on this then? It's horrible what they did to you. It really is. It's
right, I
horrible.
mean, and that's the stupidity of it.
Right.
That's the stupidity because I didn't ask for this. I've been trying to solve it the whole time. So what they've just now done, I cited all those figures, $65 billion company, Charter Communications. Well, that whole 65 billion is now on the hook. And they're tied to Warner Media, 20 billion. I think it's like 19.9 billion.
Is this going
And
to be a
then
lawsuit?
Cox.
Excuse me. Is this going to be a lawsuit? Or are you going to sue them?
Well, that's the ridiculous part. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't
Right.
be. They come to the table happy, happy, happy. But yeah, it not only is going to be a lawsuit, civil rights violations. So that gets the Justice Department involved. That doesn't even involve me. And so
Right.
they're just reamed through everything, and they're under inspections for like years. And so they have to pay for lawyers and accountants and things. And if
Wow.
one little thing is found, so they're costing themselves billions. And brand value. What do? I make number one brands. I also get brought in to fix it when there's problems like this. And like I'm probably the only person that they could hire to fix it. Isn't that ironic? And because guess what? It's all recorded, and I get to go on any national news with the recordings and with this letter and stuff. And the public ends up hating these brands because they're abusing disabled people who are begging to pay the brand suicide. So what is going to happen? I don't know. I got to figure that out because
I
they're
see.
not being very smart. Not being very smart. I endorse brands right from the get-go. I said, hey, let's have a, maybe I'll endorse you. And then you're just giving me free stuff, and I'm endorsing your brand. And then it escalates. And now, it gets to they're tormenting disabled people and affecting my kid and things. And hundreds of thousands, if not more, in losses. And me having to go to the hospital. And still I'm focused on positives. Let's do some shows together or whatever. Because
Right.
here's my caveat, Johnny. I don't want to live in a mansion. I want my kids taken care of. But everything else that I generate goes to helping people, to helping the homeless, to helping people with mental illness, to helping veterans, to helping poor people, to helping kids who got the shaft because they didn't have a good education. I want the American dream for everybody around the world, which is just knowing that you have food and knowing that you have a roof and yeah, people can have profits. That's cool. Economy is cool, right? But you shouldn't be, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. I would not be flying off to space, spending what is it, $1 billion to fly off to space on a joyride when there's people starving. And that's my choice. And I mean, that's my choice. Not everybody has to make that choice. And I don't live like a pauper, but I don't need a mansion to be lonely when
Well,
what I really dig is hanging out with people. And so all the billions, if I have to sue them, all the billions are going to go to helping people. But it makes a lot more sense to do shows and have those shows generate income. And Warner can have their profits, and Charter can have their profits, and Cox can have their profits. And yeah, I get profits too, but I'm going to steer most of that to helping people. And then, I throw these caveats in where it's like, okay, I'll do these shows with you so I don't have to sue you for billions or whatever. Because this, you'd be surprised. This isn't the only company that thinks it's okay to abuse disabled people. And that's the whole premise of the show we're launching. It's called Brand Savior. It's what I've always done behind the scenes is save brands that do this. They just decided to do it to me. And so the caveat is, hey, I'm going to do shows with you, XYZ company. Well, then I want, in addition to some of, the profits I'm generating that I'm donating, let's give households say it's, I don't want to say it's charter because I don't want to say that anything, but say it's bubblegum internet, right? Then if bubblegum internet and I enter an agreement, then bubblegum internet agrees to give disabled people in each community X number of households get free internet. It doesn't cost them anything. It doesn't. And it helps people. And so that was not what I was intended to chit chat with you about, but it happened.
Okay.
And
I understand. No, I understand, and I'm listening to you, and I agree with you. They picked the wrong person to pick on. You're trying to be very fair with these people, and you're willing to help them. You're not out to hurt them, and you want to help. Not only, it's not just about making money. It's lifting people up and helping people who are disadvantaged, who don't have very much. And some people are greedy; they're well off, but that's not you. You want, of course, you want to be successful, make money, but everyone should have a fair shot, and you want to help everyone around you, which is very admirable. And I do admire that, Rikki Lee Travolta. By the way,
man, I appreciate that, John. I appreciate that, man.
What I wanted to ask you was, how did give me a rundown? Tell me the Rikki Lee Travolta story. How did you get started as celebrity publicist, and where are you from? So I want to hear about that.
Oh, all right, my man. Okay, the whole reason that I like to help people. Well, I survived some really awful things when I was a kid. My father is a convicted sex offender, and he lives under multiple names. So right now he's living as Dr. Gerald Michael Beasy in Lake Oswego, Oregon, but that's not his legal name. And he went to medical school as Roland Warren Beasy Jr. Long, goofy story. And he's a convicted sex offender in Lincoln, Nebraska under Lawrence Ernesti Jr. I found a way to smile about it. But he likes little children, and he liked his dad, and he liked his son. Okay, and so that means, as a result, Sweet Babu wants to say hi. She's a little camera hog, and so that means I can only be happy if I'm making people happy. And so there's a really bad reason for that. But why make bad people happy doing yucky things when I just can change it and make millions of dollars for people and give it to people? And that makes me happy. And so that's where all that came from. And I was a little kid in Oregon, and I got into acting on accident. I was this autistic kid, couldn't even talk or anything, and I got cast on accident in A Christmas Carol because Tiny Tim doesn't really have to talk. He has 2 lines. All he has to be is cute. And so my audition, I didn't know what an audition was. I didn't know what a play was. And I was in the lobby just playing because my sister was taking acting classes. And Paul DeRumis, the director, sees me, says, "Oh, that's a cute kid," pulls me in and says, "Can you limp?" And I had just seen Young Frankenstein with, Mel Brooks. So I did Igor's limp with the comedy because I know I would an audition. I ended up getting cast. And then it ends up on TV. And so I'm like this cute kid who can't even talk really, can't even function. But you don't have to be talented to be famous. And so this was in Oregon. I became the #1 kid actor all the way growing up. It was awful. Oh, Johnny, I was terrible. But I learned. And I would go home and I'd practice facial expressions in me because I didn't know how to do it. A lot of autistic kids, they don't. And just by happening to be around actors and acting class, I learned how to, it's called mask. And I got really good at it. To the point I became a spokesperson. To the point I was, I dated a lot of girls from from Hollywood, some girls from Star Trek universe, some girls from the adult industry. Very special relationship with Anna Nicole Smith for a little while. Very beautiful, very damnable. A lot of people in Hollywood are. And that's why they go there is, well, they're looking for something, and they don't get it on the small scale. So they go for the big scale. And I was working boy, I became a protege of Jerry Gold, who was the senior executive VP at Paramount. And a chance meeting. He was looking for a gig, and he was executive VP. He hadn't looked for a gig in years. And I was on a company called Ross, legend company. Now they're the number one agency in the country. I create number one brands. And I was hanging out in the office, and they had an accounting division. I like to learn the products that I'm representing. And I was doing interviews and like working as a recruiter to kind of get an idea of what it is. And what they would do is they run ads and fake ads, and to get people to trick them into the temp office, they're coming for a job. And then it turns out it's a temp thing. And so there's Jerry Goldman. And I didn't know who he was, but he had the most expensive suit I'd ever seen. And he's sitting next to construction workers. And nobody's doing anything. Nobody's paying attention to the details. So I go and I grab his resume. I'm like, oh my God. I treat everybody with respect. But at the same time, his suit probably costs more than people's houses. And they're letting him sit there. And so I pulled him aside, and they wanted me to put him through tests, like little basic math tests. This is a senior executive VP from Paramount Studios, one of the biggest studios in the country. And I'm not stupid, Johnny. I worked with him after hours. I redid his resume. And man, Jerry would take my calls in the middle of production meetings, and I wouldn't know it. I was just calling my buddy. And eventually I put him in a position at Cootie Hayes, and they produced some cool series. They produced a lot of things out of Australia. Things they did master and that kind of thing, and they import it. And, he just wanted to be, and then so I hook up with Dorn from Star Trek: The Next Generation and Nine, and he's going to direct and star in a script I wrote, Heroes, and then we changed to Heroes Before Dawn and all sorts of stuff. But I mean, that's all the kind of things that I was doing out there because I was nice to the right person. And so I'm nice to everybody. And I lost a lot of years because my relatives, like I said, my daddy, he's a sex offender. And then my mother's relatives, Joanne Deal, our chief compassion officer, she and I worked on this today because we were doing a podcast of our own on a network we're starting. And we didn't want to say, everybody calls these people a swear word. We didn't want to do that. And so Joanne is like we pray together and things. And I think everybody should believe what they want, even if it's atheism, whether it's Judaism, Buddhism, Muslim, whatever's right for you. And, I'm not a big old got to pray all the time. But sometimes when bad things happen, she and I pray together. And we were trying to figure out what to call these people that would be polite. And their names are Kirk Landers, Mike Landers, Scott Landers, and Patricia Beasley. Because they've been told that my dad's a sex offender. They've been offered the evidence. That please have. And they said, we don't have to look at it. We've met him. He's a charming guy. And Joanne came up with, they're not nice people. And so I lost a few years because they lied to some doctors. And autism, well, it's my superpower. It makes me able to make number one brands. I'm going to show you one of the ones I did. Empire Today. It was a big Chicago company, and David Lenowitz bought it and wanted to make it national. And he didn't understand that Lynn Haldren wasn't going to translate nationally. So it wasn't working. And they brought in some newscaster from Minnesota or something. That didn't work. And so I just introduced that Axitron Mod book. I was one of the top 5 marketing people in the country. I'd also just modeled with Fabio because I had this long, beautiful blonde hair, and I'm still kind of cute a little bit, just bald. And I'm a spokesperson. So I was like the ultimate dream for them, because what spokesperson also does $100 million marketing behind the scenes and can wing it on camera? So yeah, they kind of really promised me a lot to make it happen. And That's what I do. I make #1 brands in record time. And and so, like I said, lost some years, and that can't get back. And it's because the landers lied. They lied because they're ignorant to believe a child molester over looking at evidence. And that's sad. But I don't cry. I mean, I do. But I figure out a way to smile. I figure out a way to smile at the end of the day, because why wallow? And so I focus on the positive. And I have had this great career. Man, I rescued Steven Adler's career because he got canned from Guns N' Roses. Okay. And for all his career after that, he was known as the guy who got kicked out of Guns N' Roses for an addiction. And guess what? Every single member of Guns N' Roses was a heroin junkie. Every single one. Steven was the last one to even try it. He just tried it to fit in. The reason he got kicked out of Guns N' Roses, in my theory, I mean, I haven't sat and talked with Axl and Slash and all that, but in the recording industry, you have to do the same song over and over and over the same way. And Steven is self-taught, and he has a very unique style that any Guns N' Roses album after Steven doesn't sound the same, because he has what I call the Adler swing style. And so they were on about take 40 because he can't do it the same way. That's why he got kicked out. Nothing to do with heroin. And so he was labeled forever based on that, because anytime they wanted to steer attention away from anything bad happening, they pull out the Steven story, even though he's not even in the band anymore. And Steven is one of the 100 greatest drummers of all time per Rolling Stone magazine. He's a Grammy Hall of Fame rock star. He's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame rock star. 95% of every hit that Guns N' Roses has ever had, Steven Adler is the co-writer and plays drums on. Okay, none of that was being focused on. It was just the focus on this crap that wasn't even really true. And that's what I do. Steven's not going to do great interviews. He's a great drummer. I think, Johnny, you're realizing I do really good interviews. And that's what you need. And I turn a failing brand. If you think of Steven as a failing brand at that point. And now he's at really the maximum where he needs to be. He's not doing world tours. That's not where he needs to be. That's not going to give him pleasure. He wants to be able to go home with his beautiful wife and play with the animals and things, but he wants to have a really cool career and be out there. He loves to jam. He loves to be playing. And so he's at the pinnacle of what he can do. And that's doing US tours primarily in the summer, doing the festivals, doing the Milwaukee Fest, doing the M3. And he's like a top headliner doing that. And I did that for him. I introduced Crowbar into the industry, and it's a very specific kind of music. It's called sludge metal, and it's now a billion-dollar genre. And I invented it on accident, man. It was this little label, Grindcore International, division of Red Light Entertainment. Mark Noir was not he wasn't very good at running a label, but he's a brilliant producer. He produced Diamond Rex back in the glam days. And we signed this band, Crowbar. Nobody's heard of it. Just this really different kind of music. And Mark's a brilliant producer. He came up with this awesome album. It's called Obedience Through Suffering. He throws it in my lap. He says, Rikki, man, you executive PR dude, come up with a way to sell this. And I can't read a textbook. I had a 4.0 in grad school, but I can't read a textbook because I'm autistic. It's just words. So I talk to people. So I talk to the band. And they're from Louisiana, and they're cool dudes. And they mention a term, sludge metal. What is that? I said, well, it's just something, it's slang, something from the clubs. I said, well, I could market that. And so I was the first music executive for this little label to use the term sludge metal. And now I'm the godfather of sludge metal.
Where did you come up with that? Excuse me. Where did you come up with that sludge?
I didn't. The band mentioned it. It was slang from the clubs. I just listened to them.
Oh.
I listened and said, nobody's using that. That's what we're going to market it as. I didn't invent it. I just was the one who realized the potential. And so now it's a $1 billion genre. So guess what? I didn't know to trademark it, but I learned. So I'm going to create another music genre. I'm going to trademark it this time.
Right.
But yeah, I'm the godfather of sludge metal. I worked with Robert Cray for a little bit when I was in college. I lucked onto the team for Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation album, and I didn't run the show at all. But I was a college kid who got lucky enough to be on it, and it was the most Grammy nominations of any album in history up to that point. And I got to be on it. Michael Damian, we turned him into from a soap opera star, got him a number one single, Rock On. And it was achieved very strategically. It was a remake that wasn't known enough, like say Welcome to the Jungle. Anybody tried to redo that, it's already thought of as a Guns N' Roses song. Well, Rock On, it had enough fame that people were familiar with it, but not so much that it had an automatic connotation. And then, so we have him record that. And then you make a number one song. It's not about the song, it's about the pieces. We attached it to a movie called Dream a Little Dream. Corey Haim and Corey Feldman with the top teen stars. And that's what it was. So we have this song that statistically, it's all statistics, statistically is going to hit people in the recognition factor. And then Michael has a cool voice. He's a good singer. He's a good dude and well produced. And we attach it to what we know is going to be boom, hit movie. Michael Damian's only number one song. It was all strategic. And that goes back to my guys, Rudy Sarzo and Alex Grassi from Quiet Riot. Quiet Riot is the first band to have first metal band to have a number one Billboard hit. And it was chosen strategically because it was a remake in that same way. And I didn't do that. I was, junior high or something when that came. But listen, I learned. And so yeah, it's all statistics, and I'm really good at that. I'm really good at putting puzzles together, and that's the autism. And so I can make $1 million brands, $1 billion brands while cooking breakfast. I can't work a cell phone to save my life because of executive function disorder. So if you think of it, I'm incompetent by myself. I will die by myself. But if I have a high school graduate with me, we can make billions of dollars. And that's, man, Johnny Blaze, you're about the right age. You remember the movie Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
What was it called? Mad what?
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Mel Gibson's playing Mad Max. It has Tina Turner in it.
Oh, wow.
Third Mad Max. No. Okay, there's a character in it. It's called Master Blaster. It's two people. This hulking guy who has the brain of like a child, and a little person who's his dad, who rides around on his back, who is brilliant. And you separate them, and the hulking guy can't fend for himself. He's a child brain. And the little person can't fend for himself because he's a little person. They put them together, and they ruled the post-apocalyptic world. So it's a great example that I can't do anything on my own, but with a little team, I do amazing things. So when I made Empire Today, the number one brand, I wasn't doing the accounting. I wasn't doing the plumbing. I wasn't doing the installing. It's a team. And that's what I did. I got the whole team together. I mean, customer service, they have the worst customer service reputation in history. Well, that's an exaggeration, but it was up there. And just because nobody was thinking. And I don't do customer service, but I have a brain. And so they had all these complaints, and they didn't know what to do. They were just following the script. And the script was alienating customers. And how Empire Today got so huge before me even was they just advertised, just bought as much cheap time as they could and just pumped it out there. And when you buy a lot of advertising, Johnny Blaze, you probably know this, they give you free stuff. And so I'm sitting there in the customer service department, and they have stacks and stacks and stacks of American Express cards. Free American Express cards for $100 at radio stations and things like that. And there had just been this big boo-boo where in Texas, we would air Hispanic language commercials on Hispanic stations and English language commercials on English speaking stations. And Texas is a little bit different in demographic than, maybe Los Angeles. Different little mindset, right? And so accidentally, a station, a U.S. station, an English-speaking station, accidentally aired a Hispanic language commercial. Little boo-boo. But they were getting these calls that they hated Empire Today. You're trying to change the national language. Just going ballistic. And the company policy was to just ignore it. And you ignore something like Charter Communications did, you create $1 billion lawsuit with, Charter Communications that didn't have to happen. Well, Empire Today was going to destroy the brand. And all I did, said, watch this, guys. I picked up the phone. I called one of the people. It was this little old lady. I don't remember her name, but I call her up and I say, hey, man, I'm Rikki Travolta. I'm the new Empire man. They introduced me at the Wrigley Field, Lynn Haltern. You remember him, those commercials. Well, he was there and he got to throw out the first pitch. And I was hanging out with Lou Piniella. And it's been such an honor, meeting Americans and representing Empire Today. And I heard about your call. And you were so angry about that Spanish language commercial on your station. I thank you. I thank you so much for letting me know about that. Because now I get to talk about it and let you know it was an accident. See, accidents happen. And nobody's trying to change the language and nobody's trying to take over anything. We value you. We value our customers. Everybody needs carpet. But you really made a difference for me. And do you have a husband? And she did. Well, I bet he takes really good care of you. And you've taken good care of me today. So can we do something? I'm going to send you an American Express gift card for $100. Will you take him out for dinner and show him a good time? And then when you're done, will you give your friend Ricky a call? Let me know how it went. And boom, she became a customer for life. And so she was out there saying how awful the brand was. And she was going to say that as loud as she could. And that phone call made her a customer for life, where not only was she happy, but she is out there now doing free advertisement for me because she's telling everybody what a great brand it is. And that's how I do it. It's being truthful. And then with Empire Today, I didn't invent product placement, but I saw the potential. I went gangbusters with it. So we were the official flooring company of everything. Official flooring company of the Montel Williams show. I was on every HGTV show under the sun, but then also on the Playboy channel. And I would address the audiences for what they were. If you're on a Christian station, you don't talk the same way you do on a Playboy channel station. And I would tailor ads that same way. And that goes back to Other World Computing as well. Any kind of company that I do, it's tailoring the message, and it all has to hinge on truth. Because if you abuse your customers, if you lie to your customers, that's the quick buck. Right. And that's going to go away. And then you're not going to have customers. But if you make a boo-boo and instead you send them out to dinner, wow, it costs you a dinner. Or man, you do something like Charter Communications just did to me. You buy them a car or something. I don't know what, but you make them happy. Because then it's not billions of dollars in loss. And that's how you build a brand. It's not about the immediate profit. It's about the long-term profit. And that's how I build celebrity brands, because it's the same thing. You're not building a customer for life. You're building a fan for life. And they're going to buy your merchandise and your albums. If you look at Joel Osteen, okay, he's not my client, but Johnny, I don't know. It might not surprise you. I was once recruited to be an evangelical preacher. And I chose not to do it. But you look at Joel Osteen, very brilliant marketing around him. And he has really expensive sports cars. And he chooses to live in the mansions and things. And that's okay. That's just his choice. But he goes and he does these conventions and things around the country. And I talked to a woman who went to one, and she said, "Did you know he only charges $5 to get in?" And I said, "Well, let me guess this. As soon as you walk in, there's merchandise tables, and you just walked in and you only spent $5. So then you think, oh, I have all the money, and you go and buy $100 worth of merchandise." And she said, "Oh my God, how did you know that?" That's what I do. But I don't, I didn't do the evangelical thing because I thought it was unethical for what they wanted me to do. They wanted me to bilk money from people who really couldn't afford to give it, thinking that they were giving it for a very good reason. I think the Bible's cool. I think, religion is cool and all that. But you got to make sure that the cause you're donating to is where the money actually goes. And, but that's how I do it. It's all in truth. It's all in truth, because at the end of the day, that's your character. That's your character. And that's what people are going to buy from. That's who they're going to invest in.
Boy, honesty is the best policy. And you're sending out positive karma vibes is what you're doing, Rikki Lee Travolta.
Oh man, I appreciate that.
And you're lifting people up. Now, you've inspired quite a few people. I mean, give me a rundown of all the different celebrities that you have worked with, and also, what is your best celebrity campaign? I'll ask you that, and I'll ask you, have you ever had a campaign where you tried hard to make it work, but for some reason it didn't? And if it didn't, how did you handle that? I'll ask you about all these things.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you that the most successful one is actually not a celebrity. I try and keep the political stuff that I do out of the spotlight, because, it can be influential on my other clients to be aligned with a politician. And so anything I do there, really out of the spotlight. But there was one, and it wasn't a politician. It was a library district, because I'm very cool with the library. I love the library. I do campaigns. I'm actually on a media tour right now, just donating copies of one of my books. Let's see, I have a copy here. My first novel was My Fractured Life, and it's alternate history. At the time, I didn't invent it, but it was a pioneering work in alternate history. And what that is it takes real history and changes it. So I got inspired by a movie called Fatherland, which Rutger Hauer plays a Nazi officer, and the Nazis have won World War II in this alternate history. And it's fascinating. I said, I want to write a book like that. And so at the end was My Fractured Life. And Heath Ledger desperately wanted to star in it. And man, it would have been a great movie, and that didn't happen. But we just got the film and TV rights back. So some young star is going to be really big. And but I'm going on this tour because I'm in fear for my life. Schaumburg police said, go travel. And I'm not one to sit around. So I go around to libraries around the country, and I donate copies of the books I've written and encourage people to use the library. And I helped start Library Cable Network back in the day, and I represented library districts. And the story I'm going to tell you is about that. They had been trying to pass a referendum financing for years, and they couldn't do it. I did it in a couple months, and I did it. One of the Bushes, I think it was George Jr., was running for president, and his whole ad campaign was wrapping himself in the flag, so to speak. He would do appearances on Navy vessels and like wear a uniform, associated himself with America. And so what I did for the referendum, they kept doing what a lot of companies make the mistake of, and that's saying what you want to say. Well, that's going to alienate people. You want to connect to people, you say what they want to hear, but you have to do it truthfully. And so I did a bunch of commercials for them, and almost every one, it would start on, there's an American flag flying above the library. We'd start the camera on the flag and then zoom back, and then I do the spiel. I just learned from the George Bush ads and just applied it to that, and it passed instantly. And it was a good referendum. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. I don't endorse bad things. That's why I don't endorse Empire Today anymore. I don't endorse Other World Computing anymore. But I'm part owner of both companies, and there's lawsuits involved in that. But it's just realizing what people want to hear, because starting on the flag, it makes it a happy introduction. And so if you think about film, I produce television. And if you open the movie and somebody's smiling, that invites the audience in.
Excuse me, on my fractured life, is this about your experiences, your biography, or is it?
No, it's not. And that's kind of the goofy thing. It's my fractured life. I stole the title. There was a cool series called My So-Called Life. And I actually ended up hanging out with Wilson Cruz, who's one of the cats on that. Just a groovy dude. I was going to do Rent. They really wanted me to replace Adam Pascal in Rent. And I had a good voice. But Adam Pascal has probably one of the greatest voices of all time. And we tried for almost a year to get me to that level. And I was going to do Bye Bye Birdie on Broadway. I had a bunch of things offered, but Rent, I couldn't do it more than probably 3 nights a week. I didn't have the voice for it. And that's just a sad reality. And so I ended up having to turn it down. But before that, I was meeting with all the cats on the tours and everything that they were trying to convince me to do it. And I wanted to do it. There was no convincing to be had. Just didn't end up happening. But Wilson Cruz, he had been on My So-Called Life, and then he ended up playing Angel on tour and then on Broadway. And I got to hang out with Neil Patrick Harris, who was just the most amazing talent, just a cool dude. And so that was because they wanted me to play Roger in Rent. And it just wasn't going to happen on stage. I wish it could. I wish. And then they were going to make the movie. And then the movie didn't happen. Then they were going to make a TV miniseries. And at that point, boom, they're talking to Rikki Lee Travolta as Roger again, because I didn't have to sing it on stage, right? We could just record it. And actually, a sticking point was I wanted Adam to do the vocals because he's a much better singer. But then that didn't happen. And then they actually did make the movie, and Chris Columbus directed it. And Adam got to play Roger, as he should have. And Anthony Rapp got to play Mark. And only a few of the originals weren't in the cast. And it made sense. It was an age thing. And but it was a cool project that I wish had happened. But I made some friends. And My Fractured Life is, I stole the title from My So-Called Life. And the whole concept was a hot young star and his best friend. They don't really know each other, right? They're best friends, but they don't know each other's struggles. Mm. And the hot star, who really doesn't have any talent, kind of like I was the kid who didn't have any talent, but this was, a justified star. And he becomes successful, and his best friend, who really is talented, doesn't. And his best friend commits suicide because he's just so distraught. And the Hollywood guy finds the diaries, finds the body and the diaries, and starts reading them. And that's the story. And so the whole concept was, it's like a picture made on glass, and you shatter it on the ground, and the pieces are out of order. The whole thing is, it's told in pieces out of order. And I'd written it, and I couldn't get it to work. It's a good story, but I couldn't get it to the sell factor until I saw a movie called Memento that starts at the end. Memento starts, the last scene is the beginning of the movie is the last scene of the story. I said, I took the last scene of the book and put it at the front. And that was the magic. And it became a bestseller on a goof. The publisher made a boo-boo, and he put it in the biography category. It's not. It says right in there, this is a novel, alternate history. It has my picture on it, because we had to have somebody's picture on it. And we loaned the character some of my attributes to give it some familiarity, but it never says my name, and it's not me at all. Not me at all. And the publisher hit a wrong button, and it became an Amazon top 10 hit, and everybody wanted to make it into a movie and things. Sometimes accidents can be good, right? And that's what happened. And so in the end, we got the film TV rights back for that. And I did a goofy sequel, really goofy. I was just kind of bored. What can I do with this? And so it's called Bloodlust in My Fractured Life Saga. And it wasn't really good, Johnny, but I just did it to do it. And I'd written, I'd read Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire. And man, I was not a horror genre book reader, but it wasn't a horror genre book. It's a romance, it's historical. It was amazing. It was just amazing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to write, if I have to write a sequel to this, I'm going to have fun with it. And so I was inspired by Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire. And so it's not stolen from that, but I have a character who's very similar to Lestat, and who's the main character in all those books after the Interview with the Vampire, first one. And so it got kind of linked to Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire in terms of the cult kind of following. And I do a lot of horror films now. I do like cameos, and the films that were stolen from Fox Lake were horror films.
Where do you get on these ideas for your books? How do you go about? Is it from other people's, or you're mainly from your experiences, or from other people, or how do you get inspired and write books?
Well, it's like I said, the bloodlust of My Fractured Life Saga. It was, I read this cool book. I read Anne Rice. It's like, I want to write a vampire book. So that's what I did. And it didn't really go anywhere. And Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire didn't really do well as a movie, but then they made a series. They just recently made a series, and it's incredible because it's the right genre for a story. When you convert a book to a movie, it's a page to a minute of screen time. So to make a movie, you got to cut out half the story. If you do a streaming series, you can do the full story, the right medium. And so now that's this hit series, and boom, not only is My Fractured Life, everybody wants to make that into a movie. Everybody wants to make Bloodlust into a movie because it has this affiliation with Interview with a Vampire, which is now a hit again. And it's just, I can keep anything in the media for years. I have that unique talent because I can adapt to things. And that's why I can make a brand, a number one brand in a record time, because most people follow a set plan and that's how they do it. And I have my structure, but it's individualized per company, per celebrity, per product. I could go through your house, Johnny, and I can point out things that are in your cabinets that I named, that you bought because of the name.
Well, I will say this much, Rikki Lee Travolta, Steve Jobs did proclaim you as a marketing genius. I know that. And so you must have been very successful in marketing brands. Besides lifting people up with celebrities, from what you're telling me, do you have a way of doing celebrity campaigns? And by the way, for Elvis lovers, I know you've written. It's called the Elvis Conspiracies.
Yes, yeah, and that's a cool one. That is a cool one because we have all these Elvis conspiracies, right? Elvis is alive. Elvis didn't die. And I did the approach of, what if it was true? What if all those conspiracies were true? And really kind of cool script. And so, yeah, we're looking forward to selling that. And it's one of those ones, times change. I wrote it for myself because I played Conrad Birdie. I did all the Elvis roles when I had hair and was young. Well, I can't play the part anymore. So that makes it even easier to sell because there's not my ego attached if I want to do it. And so that's going to be a cool movie. And I have probably thousands.
So it's going to be a movie? Excuse me. From this book, it's going to become a movie, Elvis Conspiracies?
Well, that's not a book. It's a screenplay. And it's won, something like 20 Best Screenplay Awards just because it's this cool screenplay in the opinion of a lot of people. I'm not going to say. It's up to others if they think it's cool. But everyone who reads it loves it. And then this whole thing with the Airbnb thing happened. And that's why production hasn't started or anything. We were gonna sell it, and then bad things happened. And so it's still available. And we're going to start taking pitches on it again, but the price probably just went up a lot because of timing. But it's a really cool story, and I'm not about money so much as making sure it gets made the right way, and so it has to be the right studio where, man, I love Mr. T. But if they want Mr. T to play Elvis, I'm not sure that's the studio I want to have make, right?
Of course. Now, let me see, in your opinion, Well, you're writing. And this is a very interesting story. A lot of people, Elvis lovers, want to believe Elvis is very much alive, even though they know he couldn't have possibly be because of what he went through. I mean, he had heart problems and colon problems, and he was taking, unfortunately, the drugs he was taking to keep himself active. And the other people, the Memphis Mafia people that worked with him for years, are trying to get him to change, to get him to go back to the way he was, and they were not able to do it. They ended up writing a book, Elvis, What Happened, and he got angry. He said that, how could these people that I love, that work with so much, turn on me and everything? They were just trying to help him, but he didn't take it that way. So a lot of people want to believe he's alive, even though physically, with what he went through, it's probably impossible, but they want to believe it. It's like a nice fantasy. What is your opinion on that? I know you've written this. So what do you think about that? About the Elvis conspiracies?
Doing the research for that.
Right.
Here's where it could make sense. Could. And that's the whole premise. The body that was taken to the coroner, according to the coroner's reports, was like 100 and some pounds, like 160, something like that. And if you look at Elvis at that time, he was easily about 275 at least. And so, did the coroner lie just to make Elvis seem more svelte in the records? Or was it somebody else's body? Okay. You have to look at the details and say, does that make sense? And so his gravestone, Elvis's gravestone at Graceland, is spelled wrong.
Right. It's supposed to be Aron. They spelled it Aaron, his middle name. Right.
So why would that be? Unless maybe he wasn't dead. Maybe. And that's the premise of the movie, is taking those maybes.
Okay, so if maybe he wasn't dead, what do you think happened? You think that he perhaps faked his death? Is that what you believe?
Do I think that? No, I think he passed away, and it's unfortunate, and that's the fact. I mean, I did not have the same doctor that prescribed the medication to Michael Jackson that caused him to die, but I had a doctor who had been Michael Jackson's tour doctor on the Bad tour, and so I'm kind of familiar with how they pump. Michael Jackson was the king after Elvis, right? And they need things to sleep, they need things to wake up, and you get addicted to things, and so
you got addicted to purple pill.
Yeah, and so I think Elvis is dead. I certainly do, but the movie is just a what if, and that's Hollywood, right? Isn't any interesting story a what if? And that's alternate history, the genre of my fractured life.
It is very interesting. Did you ever meet Elvis Presley in person? See any of his concerts or no?
I didn't. My grandma, my only relative who was actually worth anything. She actually knew like how horrific my other relatives were, and she would call me and tell me the words that are so important to me. And I try and share them with everybody I meet. And they're, I love you and I'm proud of you. Because what does it cost to say nice words? And those have such a meaning. And my grandma took me to Graceland because she knew what a huge Elvis fan I was. And so I got to tour. Elvis was dead at that point, but I got to tour. And it was a good experience. It's become so commercialized now because I don't believe the family even own it anymore. I think they licensed off the name. And don't quote me on that, but I believe that's the case. And now you have to pay to go on the Lisa Marie plane, and you have to pay separately to go in the garage where all the vehicles were. And you have to pay separately to do this and that. And that's kind of what I'm saying about abusing the customer. Disney World, man, it costs a lot of money to go to Disney World, but they treat you like you're royalty. And the food is amazing. They have the most amazing chefs at a theme park, basically, right? They make it the happiest place on earth by investing in it. and they make it worth the price. It's a high price. But they make it worth it by not nickel and diming you and saying, okay, you're here, we're going to take care of you. We're going to have Mickey come and eat pancakes with you or whatever. They make you feel special. And I loved going to Graceland, but I don't think I'd want to go back the way it currently is, with nothing against it. But I wouldn't have the same experience. I would feel a little bit like they were taking advantage of me, where they weren't treating me as a fan. They weren't saying, hey, Elvis fan, come and celebrate Elvis. And yeah, give us a little bit of money so we can keep doing it. And we'll make profits because, yeah, they're going to have there was Elvis shampoo for a while. You can have Elvis anything. That's what I do. It's a celebrity brand. And so it seems like they've lost sight of where the customer's best interest is. And what is the term? Customer service. Serving the customer. Is it serving the customer to charge them for every single thing that you can? Or is it serving the customer to make them really happy and make them want to come back?
Well, it sounds like to me, you think it's more about profits than it is over individual happiness, right?
Well, you got to think of it the right way. Because, yeah, they're making maximum profit for that one visit. But now I have not really the interest of going back. But if they kept it affordable, then maybe I go back every year. And then your profits are actually bigger because you're getting that repeat business. One of the companies that I was talking to was a suit brand. And I think it was like $5,000 a suit or something. I said, okay, what if we donate suits to some homeless and kids who are graduating college and don't have a suit and things? And so then if our profit margin goes down and the profit margins that are built are astronomical. So you can give away anything. And so what if we're only really charging $4,000, right? We're charging $5,000 for most customers, but in terms of profits, it all translates to that. Okay, so we're selling, instead of one $5,000 suit, we're selling thousands of $4,000 suits every year. What's more profitable, guys? It's not always the immediate. You got to think big picture. If you're making profits every year for history because you created a brand that goes on for all time, that's a lot different than taking advantage of your customer. If you look at Amazon started, it was great. The free shipping, you could return anything, you could get anything. And now Nathan Brown, the guy who did all the bad stuff at Fox Lake, he used our Amazon account and Amazon won't fix it. Charged like $100,000 on there, and Amazon, somebody answers at a call center in another country and won't even look at it. And so they know that they owe us all this money and nobody wants to take accountability for it. Well, guess what? The brand value goes really down. And not only just me, but they're not doing the free shipping anymore. And it's not overnight anymore. And it's not this and not that and not this. And suddenly it's not all that appealing, is it? And the second that somebody starts a competitor, they think they have a monopoly. And they're not prepared for that competitor who then offers quality. And what am I talking about, my man Johnny Blaze? Not only quality, but the truth. We're going to treat you right.
Yeah, being true is important. Giving to the customer is very important. Now, you're right. You've done some. I know you've done some. Acting and movies and acting, and also producing and everything. Talk to me about your various acting and movie experiences, and which ones were the best ones and ones that stand out. Tell me about all those.
Okay. I want to jump back because I skipped over part of your question just because I ramble. I'm a fun guy. I ramble in all areas. But you'd asked about some of my celebrity people. I've represented people from the Star Trek universe, the Star Wars universe, horror films, sports figures. We represent a lot of cool stuff. But in terms of my acting, I was a national headliner. I was offered Grease on Broadway because we thought I was John Travolta's nephew because my daddy's kooky. And one of his big attendees is Michael Salvatore Travolta. So at the time, we thought I was John's nephew, and John was really cool, man. He never embarrassed me, right? And he could have. And the whole family is just grooviest, just groovy. I mean, Joey's this amazing director, and he works with autistic kids. He teaches autistic kids film. And Ellen is this amazing actress. You know her from Charles in Charge and a lot of soap operas. And Margaret does commercials, and Anne does commercials. Sam is involved behind the scenes. Just amazing family. And John is just this angel. And his daughter Ella is just going to be the most incredible talent. I would love to help her out because it's really easy to get pigeonholed with nepotism.
Well, by the way, you've probably been asked this many times. Are you related to John Travolta?
We thought I was up until just very recently, because my daddy made up stories, and my dad's just a bad man, and that's what I'm saying is John never embarrassed me, and he could have, because I didn't know it. I thought I was his nephew, and he knew I wasn't. He didn't know it, and he never embarrassed me. And so he's the coolest cat. He's just amazing, and but I was offered Grease to replace Ricky Paul Golden in the Grease revival. I think it was 1994. And even thinking I was John's nephew, I didn't want to do it. I love Grease. I did a production eventually, but I didn't want to do it and be the nepotism guy. So instead, I accepted an offer to do Tony and Tina's Wedding, which was an environmental comedy. I started in Chicago. I did about 6 months there, turned it into the #1 show in Chicago. Marianne Murciano, cool lady from Fox Thing in the Morning. She had this cool quote. She said, "I've seen the show before. With Rikki Lee Travolta, it's even better." Man, that's pretty cool, right? And so then they start farming me out to shows. Every major city had a production of Tony and Tina's Wedding, and so I would go and do them, and that was fun, and that was groovy and cool. And then I did a lot of musicals. West Side Story, did that a lot, and then eventually I started doing film, and I do a lot of cameos in horror films, and which is how I ended up starting to produce them. And we have one band that is really going to go gangbusters, and it's tied to the horror industry. They're called Suicide Puppets, and it's not about suicide. It's kind of a funny title because they're horror metal. Okay, horror and movie inspired metal, heavy metal, where not the scary Halloween movies. And I worked with Scout Taylor Compton from the Halloween movies, but the campy ones, like the stuff that I got to be on the sidelines for Full Moon Pictures, Charles Band. I loved his stuff. Man, they'd bring in like old 80s TV stars and have them star in these movies. And it was great. I loved it. Or Lloyd Kaufman, Toxic Avenger. Really campy. And that's horror metal. And Suicide Puppets are going to be the kings of horror metal. And I mean, they're just amazing. But I got involved with them because I was doing all these cameos in horror films. And I actually won, was it 2023, I think, Best Actor for a film called The Slight. And what an honor. It was at the Gene Siskel Film Center. That's legendary. And I think it was, I don't want to mess up the car. I believe it was Lamborghini was the sponsor. And I didn't have a speech prepared. I thought I had no chance. And my girlfriend Deb, who owns Entertainability Group with me and things, and she's my ex-business partner Jake fed her a bunch of lies. Oh boy, that's kind of how the whole thing at Fox Lake happened, because she was fed a bunch of lies, and I didn't know it because she was too polite to let me know, and caused some confusion. But before that, we were at the Gene Siskel Film Center for these awards. And she's like shaking me, saying, "Rikki, go up there. You won." I had no speech ready. And I'm a pretty good talker, Johnny, but I was emotional.
Wow.
And I said, look, I'm the voice for the voiceless, because I'm pretty eloquent for a disabled person. And there's people who can't talk. And so I'm open that I'm autistic. And the reason the thing happened in Fox Lake, like I said, the guy said, "But wait, you're disabled. I thought that means you're dumb." And I opened myself up to that. And the worst thing that could happen to a man or a woman happened to me because I'm open that I'm disabled. But Johnny, I'm not dumb. But because I'm open that I'm disabled, I got abused.
Terrible.
But if that can happen to me, what happens to the kid who can't speak?
Right.
So I'm the voice for the voiceless. And so when I won that Best Actor award for The Slight, directed by Ben Kirsten, amazing film director, and really the credit for me winning goes to Amy Stryker, my amazing co-star, and Izzy Fugat, and Frida Hugh. All I had to do was react. They made it easy. They're the ones who should have the award. All them.
Congratulations on that. Congratulations.
Thank you. But I went up there and I was crying because I said, this is for disabled people. And that's what meant something to me, because I'm known as America's friend, Johnny. And I was the kid in high school who had to sit at the English as a second language table so I wouldn't be alone in high school, because my relatives had labeled me the idiot. And nobody wanted to hang out with me. And when I went away to college and nobody knew me, then you got this, where I wasn't labeled. I think, I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Johnny.
Rikki Lee Travolta, I can tell from talking to you, you have a heart and you love what you're doing. You love everything that you're doing. You put your mind, body, heart, and soul into what you do. And you turn your scars into stars. You don't allow, even if you have a disability or whatever, autistic or attention deficit disorder, whatever, you don't let that control you. You control it, because you put everything you can into what you're doing, and you care. It's not just for you about profits, it's about lifting other people up. And by lifting other people up, you are winning, and you are the gift that keeps on giving.
Man.
What do you think of that?
Johnny Blaze, I gotta get a copy. You got to promise me a copy of this show, because I'm gonna take that quote right there.
Oh yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah, you called me a gift, and that is like, Johnny, that makes my heart sing.
Well, you know what? After we finish the interview, I'll be talking to you. You know, you'll hang around. And I'll be talking to you some more, and we'll tell you some other surprises, some other things that I think you'll find very interesting when the interview's over.
That is so groovy, because I like to make people happy. I want to be people's friend.
I think that's wonderful.
Called a compliment like a gift.
And I think the world would be a better place if there were more people like you, Rikki Lee Travolta. I really do.
Johnny Blaze, you are this incredible host, right? People love Johnny Blaze. You're just this incredible host. It's an honor to even be on your show.
And it's an honor for me. It's an honor for me to have you on. Also, it really is. Thank you,
man. But I'll tell you what. When we're all done, if you will let me, I would love to cut a little promo for you that you can use to promote your show, because I'm just so honored. And man, just to even be on your show, to be invited, it was like, wow, Johnny Blaze. And then you throw these beautiful compliments at me.
Well, you know what? I don't say anything I don't mean. I say it from my heart, just like you do things from your heart also. That's how I feel. I really believe that we need to lift one another up. There's too much bad in the world. You don't have to look for the bad. It's all over the place. But you want to make people happy. You want to make them smile. You want to entertain them. You want the people to have fun and be inspired. And you're very inspiring, Rikki Lee Travolta. And your story it resonates with me. And I salute you and I recognize you. And
man, again, you're hitting some key words that I love, because I do a lot of work for veterans. And you just use the word salute. And I did not serve in the service, but to even be affiliated and for you to use a word like salute. Wow. And you said something, my man, that the people were against each other. People were tearing each other down. And let's think about this. Instead of having, I'm doing this interview from America, right? So Republicans and Democrats and libertarians and all, and they're saying our way. No, don't do the other way. What if we all work together? What if we all work together, and then instead of tearing each other down, we're working together for a goal? Then that's teamwork, and then everybody's a success. And then if we expand it beyond that, right?
Everyone deserves a fair chance, and should have a fair opportunity, regardless whether rich or poor. I agree with you, Rikki Lee Travolta.
Yeah. And then
One thing
everybody's
about
happy.
them, you can have money's important. Yes, it's very important, but it's not everything, because if you don't have your health, you have nothing. All the money in the world's not going to buy your health back if your health's down the drain. So if you're healthy, you're wealthy. Hopefully, you have money and you're healthy. That's very important, both of them.
And I'll tell you what makes me healthy in my heart is knowing that there's not a guy sleeping on the street outside. And so it's not just my health, it's making sure everybody's healthy. And you're right, Johnny. We need to make money. We have to support our economy. That is the way our country is built. And so we shouldn't be just giving away money. But what do? I don't donate. I create opportunities to build revenue and then take some of the pressure off the government.
Well, that's what I read about you. Although you're successful as a celebrity publicist and you've done all kinds of things, you also like to help other people who don't have much. I think that's phenomenal. It's blazing hot and awesome, Rikki Lee Travolta. It really is. It shows that you truly care. You're not just looking for profits for yourself. You're looking to lift other people up. And by lifting other people up and inspiring them, you're also lifting yourself up. It's a win-win situation all the way around.
Exactly. I smile when I make other people smile. And I have the saying, and it's true. I let the accountants worry about the money. I get paid in smiles. If I make people smile, then I'm happy. And I'll ask your permission at the end, but we have like a little PayPal.me thing that we let people shoot some money over if they want that goes to these things. But I'm not gonna throw that on your show without permission, right? But that's the kind of thing we do. Give people the opportunity. They don't have to donate, right? But if you dig the idea of helping people, we'll steer to the right place. And part of that is my little book tour, putting the attention on really one of the most important parts of America. And libraries make America great. Libraries make America great because they're free. And
True.
And they have so many great things. They have books like My Fractured Life. I'm donating around the country, so of course they have this one. But then they have
that's on Amazon, right? My Fractured Life, right? Okay.
My books aren't the end all. All those other books in there, whether it be the Bible, right? Or hey, here's a cool one. I didn't write it, but the A Lifetime of Riches. It's not the greatest book. It's really not. But it's the official biography of Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, the original.
Oh, yeah. Napoleon Hill. I remember that. Another book I remember How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. Remember that book? Oh, yeah.
I did all the research for the Napoleon Hill biography. So I'm actually the only person on earth to have spent months with Napoleon Hill's private audio diaries. It was like we were best friends. I know all his secrets, and I'm the only person on earth who knows them. And that is several bestsellers waiting to happen. And I have some really cool affiliations with some really cool literature. But it's not just me. Man, my favorite authors, S.E. Hinton, The Outsiders, one of the greatest books ever. Dr. Seuss, anything he ever written was
there's some great books.
Catcher in the Rye.
Now, I know you've done, you did some theatrical theater and you did some theater work.
Yeah.
And Broadway work, I think. Talk to me about some of those experiences.
Yeah. I did not actually do Broadway yet. We'll probably end up doing it. I was offered The Rent, and we just couldn't get my voice to work right for it. I'd been offered Grease, and it wasn't the right thing because it was, being the next John Travolta, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. I was supposed to do Bye Bye Birdie, and we're going to do the tour in 2004, and then go into the Broadway production in 2005. And the funding for the tour got complicated, so we're just going to go straight to Broadway. And then that didn't happen, and eventually it happened in 2009. I'd already moved on to something else. And John Stamos ended up playing Albert in 2009. I was always going to play Birdie. And here's the cool factor of why they wanted me so bad. I was known for doing it around the country and just, regional productions, and had the affiliation. I looked really Elvis and I had the songs down and everything. But I was a marketing guy. And so they're talking to me about different things. And I said, well, hey, there's these songs talked about in the show that Birdie did in the history before the show. So there's a song called Ugga Bugga Boo, his first hit. Well, it doesn't exist. It's just referenced in the show. And I said, hey, guy, how about we write a song, Ugga Bugga Boo, and we cut it. And I do it, but we release it as Conrad Birdie. And we create a little media buzz with the song. New way of marketing. And we would write it really cool because I was, when My Fractured Life, when it was first going to get made into a movie, David Bryan from Bon Jovi, he's the keyboardist, he was going to do the soundtrack because we go back from Full Moon, and he had never done a soundtrack, and he really wanted to do it, and he was really excited about it because there's a fictional series in the book that's kind of inspired by 21 Jump Street, and it's called Then Again. And so he's like, man, I get to write an 80s theme song. He's really, really excited about it. And when we were talking, we were doing lunches and things, he was talking about this show called Memphis that he was just workshopping. And we tossed around some ideas. And I'm not the guy who got it to Broadway, not at all, but we had some talks back then. And he ended up getting it to Broadway. He won the Tony. And so I know some cool composers and things. And so it would have been a really groovy song. I talk funny. That would have statistically, we've talked, Johnny, I know how to statistically make a hit. So that would have created this new buzz for the show, doing the Broadway Bye Bye Birdie. And I was just dying to do that. Just really wanted to do that show. It didn't happen. But one of the concepts that we have right now, I got to talk to John Travolta about it, and I've never sat down with him. But he deserves an award. He has been nominated for 2 Oscars and probably should have won them both. And I can give him a Tony. I can give him a Tony Award statistically, based upon a show that there's a concept for, and he would be in the supporting role, which is a lot easier to win, especially for somebody of stature. And it would have songs. It's a jukebox musical, which is all the rage, and that's familiar songs. But then there are specific ones that we were going to have written that would just tailor made to him. The whole show would be to get him a Tony. But it's a great show. It's a great show. And we have the casting planned out for like years, because that's how you create a show that goes on and on and on. So after, let's say, 3 years, you come in with the all African American cast. Boom, different demographic. And the ebbs and flows. And that's how you keep it going from just, hey, let's see if this works, to make it structured statistically to go on forever. It's all just planning. Wow. And I happen to see it in my head in a way others don't. And that's the autism. But I can't work a alpha. So I need that partner to do these kinds of things.
I see.
And then, yeah.
That sounds promising. Now you won an award. You told me for an award, one of your movies. Are there any other awards for any television or movies that you have won?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of too numerous to list. I mean, I've never won an Oscar, I've never won an Emmy or anything, but I've won a ton of awards. I'm an award-winning screenwriter, I'm an award-winning novelist, I'm an award-winning director, and they're titles, right? It's wonderful to win things, but what really makes me happy, like I said, the smiles and horror films. The reason I love the horror community is like going to the conventions and talking to the people and hearing how the things I create make them happy.
That's great.
That customer service. How am I making you happy? And that's what I love, is the personal connections. Like I said, Johnny, I don't want to live in a mansion all alone counting money. I want to be out having fun with people. I don't drink anymore. I drank because I had emotional pain because Daddy did bad things. But I still love to go out and hang out and dance and laugh and hit on the pretty ladies, and maybe they hit on my back, and then we have a good old time. Right? You know, I love people. I love people. I love hugs. I mean, if you see me on the street, don't tackle me. but come up and meet me, and I'm probably going to want a hug because I love it. I love handshakes. I love smiles. I love hugs.
You
I love
remember
pretty
when he
ladies.
used to be Jerry Lewis used to have his MDA telethon. He had as a guest singer was Jackie DeShannon sang the song "What the World Needs Now Is Love, Sweet Love." Remember?
Yeah.
Da,
Yep.
da, da,
Yep.
da, and there's just too little love. You remember that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I
See?
mean, look young and pretty, but I old, man.
Well, that was a great song, and it's true. The world does need more love. It really does. There's plenty of the opposite around. We need to love one another, lift people up, inspire them, help them. Now, you also have I think you've done some radio work, and I know you also have a podcast. Also, talk to me
Well,
about that.
that's a little bit out of date. I did the radio show back in the day. That's how I met Stephen After. That's how I met a lot of the cats. Stephen hated doing interviews, but he went on my show and he said, "Man, I love this so much," and that's how I ended up being his publicist and things because I made it groovy and fun. When I first started the radio show, I was awful because I just did an interview, and the station director was the one doing the interview. And by the time we were done, she's like, "You're so fun. Do you want your own show?" Okay, that sounds fun. And I was so scared of screwing it up. I scripted the show out word for word, and it was so wooden. And then I got good at it because I got comfortable. And I ended up working with Lita Ford. I ended up working with Josh Todd from Buck Cherry, Bill Medley from the Righteous Brothers.
Really, you work with Bill Medley? Wow,
Well, I mean, on the radio show.
on the radio show.
And
Okay.
got to go hang out with him at his show, and his daughter's this amazing talent as well. And we had Adam Pascal on there. My buddy Adam Pascal came on the show. I pulled on a lot of people from who I just loved. Michael Wright, probably one of the most underrated actors of all time. I should actually get on the phone and get a hold of him because I need to turn him into a star. He starred in a film called The Five Heartbeats, one of the best films ever made. And he just captivated the scene. He played a character called Fast Eddie Kane. And the part had been written for Denzel Washington.
Really?
And Robert Townsend is the guy who wrote and directed it. Brilliant director, brilliant writer. And he found Michael. And all of a sudden, Denzel didn't make sense anymore because Michael was just so brilliant. And Michael had some struggles. Man, I've worked with some people who've had struggles. I've had struggles. I was an alcoholic for a long time ago. I have not had a drink since 2014. And we all make mistakes. And if you pretend you don't make mistakes, then you keep making them. You say, "Man, I made a mistake. I'm going to change. I got in a car accident with my kid in the car. Dang, worst thing you could do." I checked into rehab that day, never had another drink. Made a mistake, and I admitted it. And that's what you do. And that's the same thing with company. Charter Communications, instead of admitting they made a mistake, just made a incredible mistake, $1 billion mistake by abusing the disabled guy. Again, don't keep making a mistake. Say, "Dang, I screwed up. I'm sorry.
Right.
Let's fix it."
That's what they should do.
And that's anything. Any company, any star. Man, you beat your wife. Oh my God, I'm not going to like you. I'm going to tell you, you don't do that. But if you do it, then say, "I screwed up. I'm going to get counseling." You don't say you didn't do it when it's on video.
Right. You got proof. You have all the proof. That's right.
Truth is the truth.
Of course.
My son,
right.
my two sons, I have the benefit of having bonus children from the women that I've been involved with because my relatives are awful. So I get really attached to the children and the families, the wonderful women I've had in my life. And but I have two biological children that I got to name, and their middle names are Truth and Justice. And I didn't even know. Somebody had to point it out to me later because I'm like the biggest Superman fan, and it never occurred to me that I named my kids' middle names after Superman. But I don't know if you know this, Johnny Blaze. I didn't discover this until recently. Superman was based on Jesus.
You must have read my mind. I was going to say something about Superman. The original Superman with George Reeves, that was my favorite. That was the best. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
I
I'll tell you
stand for
something.
truth, justice, and the American way. That's right.
And here's something about my connection to Superman. Okay, so Christopher Reeves played the film Superman, the original film Superman in the 70s. And I worked with a guy named Dave Prowse. And he was a bodybuilder who trained Christopher Reeve to play Superman. Because when Christopher got cast, he was very scrawny. He was a soap opera actor.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to tell you how you know the name Dave Prowse, where you know him from. He was Darth Vader. He was the body of Darth Vader in the Star Wars film. He's the guy who trained Christopher Reeves to be Superman because he was a bodybuilder. 6'7". He was offered his choice of either Darth Vader or Chewbacca, and he chose Darth Vader. He had to learn all the lines. He didn't know that James Earl Jones was going to dub in the voice, so he thought his voice was going to be in there. I also worked separately with Peter Mayhew, who played Chewbacca, and that's a fascinating one because he wasn't an actor. He was a nurse, but he was 7-something feet tall, and that's what they wanted. They found him on the street, and he did this incredible like character actor kind of thing in research. He didn't know how to act, but he'd go to the zoo and watch the animals. Got really into watching bears to study because he's creating a movement for this character. And one time he was sick on the set, and they brought in another 7-footer and put him in the costume, and they couldn't use any of the footage because the guy couldn't do the very unique movement. That's dedication. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Now, you have a podcast now. You have a podcast. What is it, Hanging Around with Rikki or something? Something kind of a...
That was actually the radio show. Then we moved it into the podcast. It was called Showtime with Rikki Lee. Actually, it hasn't been on for a few years. But we're starting a bunch of podcasts right now. We're starting a bunch of video podcasts. And
want to make sure we have a backup here.
Okay. Well, that's a radio show. I thought that was a podcast. Okay. I want to ask you, Rikki Lee.
That became a podcast, and now we're starting video podcasts. We're starting a whole network of tons of shows, and we've actually been shooting. We've got to edit them all, get them and flowing. But you'll be seeing a lot of Rikki Lee all over the media soon. Yeah.
There it is.
Let me ask you, Rikki Lee Travolta, if you had to do anything over, excuse me, if you had to do anything over again in your life and your career, would you do anything differently?
Well, I'll tell you what. Unless you have a time machine, we can't go back. And I've lived through some really awful things, but I like who I am. I like who I am, and I have beautiful children. And I can't change anything. I can focus on the future and I'm away from my kids right now. That's hurting me. That is hurting me. And that's what I need to get back to them for. And until the Fox Lake police do their job.
You wouldn't do anything differently?
Well,
you wouldn't do anything?
No.
Okay.
No, because I made mistakes. I made mistakes, but then I learned from them, and I like who I am. I like who I am. And to change anything, man, I wish I did things different in terms of, I wish I didn't make mistakes, but I learned from them. And right now, I look in the mirror and I like who looks back. And I think that would make my grandma proud. My grandma was my angel, Patricia Smith, with the last name Landers, which is not a great name, given the relatives that let me be raped. But she was my angel, and she would say those words, "I love you," and she would say those words, "I'm proud of you." And when we have Life and Times, we have to get that relaunched. And we had the Heartstrings Awards, and those were created in honor of my grandmother, Deborah Swinford, and myself, Rikki Travolta. We created Life and Times. It's a entertainment website. It became number 2 in Chicago in record time. It went on hiatus. We were there in Fox Lake working on that. Bad things happen. We'll get it back. And we're launching that in different media hubs. It's not just going to be Chicago. We're doing it nationwide, individualized for like Milwaukee and Detroit. And that's how you build a brand. And there's also going to be, there was supposed to be a streaming network that goes along with that. Hopefully we get the financing again. The landers, man, they weren't real smart. They committed crimes, not knowing that they did, and cost $2 million of investor money down the drain. And they have not gotten on the phone with me to this day to even acknowledge it, because they said we didn't read the email that begged them to turn it back on. But we'll be relaunching that. And that's all partnership with Deb and I, because I can't do anything by myself. It's groovy and partnering, because she's brilliant. She's brilliant. But all those awards were created from my grandma.
Excuse me, Rikki Lee, I wanted to ask you, what do you have any present projects that you're working on right now?
Well, man, right now I'm doing the I Love the Library tour, and it's going around the country, just going to libraries and being a smiling face there. Maybe people want to come meet me, and donating copies of my books. And we do little videos, and we put them out there, and it's draw attention to how great the library is. Because I would tell you, every celebrity that I've represented, every politician that I've represented, every sports figure, every Hollywood figure, every music figure, not a single one of them has ever said, I hate the library, right? They all say, I love the library. The library is great because they have books, they have music, they have movies, they have internet, they have reference librarians who help you. Man, the library is amazing. Why not? Why not promote it? Why not tell people, hey, this is part of the community? And community is a key word, Johnny. Because we build a community, and then those little communities form a bigger community. And then all of a sudden you got a country. One community, not people against each other. One community all helping each other, like a congregation, a church, congregation, community. Okay? Teamwork. That's how you build a brand. That's how you build a country. That's how you build anything. Working together.
That's important.
That's what the I Love the Library tour is about. It's taking tragedy and turning it into triumph. I can't be at home with my kids right now because Nathan Brown and Airbnb and Westward 360 broke a bunch of laws, and Chief Don DeServe and Mayor Donnie Schmidt are covering it up, and it's all documented on video because in accommodation of my disability is protected by the ADA, I'm permitted to record this. Do you consent? Yes. Boom. Thousands of hours of them committing crimes on video.
Wow.
And yet I can't go home. Can't go home until they start doing their job. So I can't be with my kids. Can't be with my girlfriend. So I'm out there turning tragedy into triumph and making good things happen for American people, and making good things happen, but putting the focus on an awesome thing. Awesome thing. And that's the library. Because I'll tell you something, Johnny. Reading is good for the soul.
Yes, it is. I agree with you. Do you have any future dream projects that you were thinking about doing that you haven't done yet you'd like to do in the future?
Oh yeah, man. I got a million things going on in my head, but I mean, we've talked about a few of them. We're going to make My Fractured Life. We're going to finalize a sale on that. We're still taking pitches, and we're going to pick a studio. We're going to do My Fractured Life. We're going to sell off Bloodlust on My Fractured Life saga. We're going to take this whole horror story of what's happened with the Fox like Airbnb thing, probably cut that into a couple projects, because it's like such a mess. It would be just an ugly movie. It wouldn't make sense. But how do you make something into profits? Okay, you take out one story and the romance between the best friends for 30 years, Rikki and Deb, and you turn that into one movie. And then you got one revenue stream that works. And then you have the whole debacle at Fox Lake of the Airbnb, worst Airbnb crime in probably history. And that's a separate story. And then you have two revenue streams, two different audiences. And then you take, and man, you got a horror story there, right? These awful things happen. And in order to get that story to people, you have to tell it in the way they need to hear it. So maybe you tell it as a drama, maybe you tell it as an action, maybe you tell it as a horror, or maybe you make it a Mel Brooks comedy musical.
That'd be interesting.
It's the same message, but then it's not traumatic to watch. And then you spin it off into books. Wow. And that's how you make generational wealth off of one idea. You realize the web that you can do. That's what I do, my
So, so
man.
what you're saying, you snowball one idea to many other ideas. That's what you're telling me, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, we're gonna do My Fractured Life. We're gonna do Bloodlust, get that Elvis conspiracy made. I did an album with a guy named Joey Broman and producer David Busher. And it's some cool songs. And I didn't have the greatest voice by then. I'd really trashed my voice. I used to smoke and I drank so much. And so my voice isn't as pretty as it used to be. I could still do certain shows and things, but what I really want to do is recut the really good songs on it because there's really good songs, um, and recut them with artists who can really do it justice. I'm thinking Ari Kamen, the future voice of rock and roll. He's the singer for Steven Adler, and maybe he does a song. My guys from Quiet Riot, man, Jizzy Pearl has just the most amazing voice, and Alex Grassi is just the coolest guitarist. You know, he doesn't try and be Randy Rhoads. No, can be Randy Rhoads, but Alex is equally as talented. And you know, so maybe we have Quiet Riot do it too. Lita Ford, man, she's amazing. Vixen, I'm in love with Vixen. You know, instead of me doing these okay versions of it, why don't we take these really awesome songs that are all going to be very well known once all this happened, you know, comes out in the news about
Well,
you know the debacle at Airbnb, turned tragedy into triumph.
that's great.
And yeah, yeah,
I like it. I
yeah.
like it. Now, if people want to find out Rikki Lee Travolta, they want to find out more about you, tell me the links. Your entertainment website, your Facebook page, YouTube channel, imdb.com, or LinkedIn, all the different, you know, all
Yeah,
the
I'll tell
different.
I'll tell you, you got to find me on LinkedIn. That's my main thing. Because when I was being held in Fox Lake, Mr. Nathan Brown and Mr. Jacob Brozick took over my social media, and so some really awful things happened there. So we had to take everything down. The only one that I had consistently was LinkedIn, and so it's Rikki Travolta is the LinkedIn handle there, and Facebook. Gosh, I don't even remember. Just Google me. There's a celebrity publicist one, and then there's the just goofy old Ricky. And just be my friend. I'm gonna accept pretty much anybody who's not a scammer.
What about IMDb? Don't you have something link on
IMDb,
imdb.com?
yeah, yeah, yeah. You just I don't have a custom link. I don't think, man. I have to have my social media to do this. Like I said, the internet didn't work, so I had to. I'm doing this on my phone, so I don't have my notes in front of me. But our website for our company is celebrityendorsements.us,
Okay.
and you can steer. Man, if you look in interviews, people say Ricky Travolta and his team. I want to be very specific that I can't do anything alone. It's a team. But Ricky Travolta and his team can make anyone or anything famous. And it's true. And you have to have a certain budget for different levels of things. But it's more than making somebody famous. It's reaching a goal with it. Because if you just want to be famous, then go run naked across a football field and you'll be famous. But you're not going to get anything out of it except maybe arrested and embarrassed. If you go in with a goal of how to achieve profits and or do something with it, then it's fame that makes sense. And you apply that bigger picture, and that's when you have the celebrity brand. And that's when you get to retire when you want, and you get to work when you want, and your kids and their kids are guaranteed things because you have Elvis shampoo, right?
Right.
And I love working with the Sunset Strip era rockers. I would love to go and do a Broadway show, but you know, I don't want to dance anymore. And my knees are old. But I don't know. I just love helping people and
That's
being
wonderful.
creative.
I think that's fantastic. Rikki Lee
Yeah,
Travolta, excuse me,
yeah,
you have had and continue to have a blazing hot and amazing life with all kinds of turning your scars into stars, all kinds of happiness and success, lifting yourself and other people up. Continue blazing those trails moving forward, Rikki Lee Travolta.
Oh man,
Yeah,
I'm so honored, and I'll tell you, in addition to make other celebrity brands, turns out my endorsement is kind of worth a lot, and so we're doing certified platinum.us, where I do the certified platinum endorsements, And there's different levels to that, where there's free ones where I just cite great brands that are just great. And there's other ones that are paid. And there's others that are programs to get you to be great. And we're going to be rolling all that out. But people can email us at success@certifiedplatinum.us. And as far as celebrity brands, or I also make with my team #1 corporate brands in all sorts of industries: technology, telecommunications, food and beverage, transportation, healthcare. We've done a lot. You email us if you'd like. I'd love to hear from you. idolmakers@celebrityendorsements.us. So I'm going to throw those emails at you again, Johnny.
Okay.
Success@certifiedplatinum.us. And I would love to endorse your brand if it's a quality brand. You got to be quality.
Of course.
And if you want us to make you #1 brand, #1 celebrity, then please reach out to us at idolmakers@celebrityendorsements.us. And Johnny, do I have your permission to give that paypal.me link for anyone who wants to?
We're not gonna. No, I appreciate the thought, but we're not going to do that on the show. PayPal, no.
That's fantastic. And that's why I asked. I always follow the rules, my brother.
Well, yeah, of course. Anyway, Rikki Lee Travolta, I want to thank you very much for being a guest on my show, the Amazing Mr. Johnny Blaze Show. The time has gone by fast. I've really enjoyed you. You've been very entertaining, inspirational. You love what you do, and you like to help people and lift other people up. And what a career you've had, and you continue to go forward. Like I say, keep on blazing those trails. Okay.
Oh man, I'm gonna blaze them for you, Johnny. You inspire me. Johnny Blaze inspires Rikki Travolta to blaze forward and help America and the world. How's that?
That sounds great, Rikki Lee Travolta. Okay, so anyway, as I get ready to wrap up and close the show, like I say, I will thank you very much. And I always say to all my fans and friends also, always keep a smile on your face and a song in your heart. And until next time, happy trails and blaze out.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to be a guest on an entertainment talk show, please send us an email at amazingjbshow@gmail.com. All of our episodes will appear on YouTube and Facebook and receive over 3,000 views. Don't forget to sign up for our YouTube channel, and every guest will receive a complimentary DVD of their appearance on the show. Remember, we are much better than a podcast. And now, the amazing, original Johnny Blaze has just left the building. Good night. God bless.